Hey everyone, Case here, and today we are doing the actual AAR for the Ebbert Gunfighting Challenge at Range 51 that happened in October of 2025. Now, for those who don't know, this is the 5th annual Gunfighting Challenge at Range 51. We go there, well, we try to go there annually. We started in 2023, had some issues with Hurricane Helene in 2024, so now this is the 2nd annual time you've seen it on the channel. However, some of us here have actually done all of them. Nico, have you done all 5?
No, but it was, yeah, it was just a hurricane that was gone, so that I couldn't attend.
So you did 4 of the 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were there in the beginning, and that's how you kind of got us into it, going from there.
Not just the beginning, but I was the first casualty they ever had.
Now, in comparison to the 2023 video, what you're going to see is the gear and equipment that we use. We're not going to talk about as much in this video because we have a dedicated gear talk to that. What we are going to talk about is some of the gear and equipment we saw other participants use, and then how each drill went. And we talk about our experiences with each of the drills and what we can learn from that going into further training. I'm here today with Nico and our mutual friend we're going to call Johnny Utah. Okay, so since we already did the video talking about our equipment, let's talk about some of the other gear equipment we saw other participants use. There's around 30 participants, which originally you're thinking only about 15 people would show up. Then it became 30, making this one of the largest events they've had so far. Generally, this is a fairly small event, but still a blast, and that's why we go. So, with that said, Utah, you want to start out with some... Let's start with the rifles. So what were some rifles you guys saw?
Can't not mention the FN Scar that homeboy was rocking.
Yeah, so there was someone with FN Scar, which is also the only person with a battle rifle caliber there.
I think that's the first time they had a 308 guy there, isn't it?
I mean, I think I want to say 2023 somebody had an AR-10.
Yeah,
for a little bit.
Possibly. I think that's the first one maybe where maybe we wouldn't be able to tell from an AR-10, but that's the first time.
Yeah, but that'd be like from a distance. But no, full hog battle rifle like Mark 17s or Mark 17s.
Yeah, what was interesting about him, and he's only a sample size of 1, is I was wondering how that battle rifle caliber do with some of the drills we'll talk about later, especially the long distance shots. I think I was talking with him. He had kind of a rush 0, but he still made it work. At the long range, he did pretty good. There were still others with other calibers that still competed at those distances very well, even faster than him. But in the closer ranges with the steel targets, he still performed very well. I mean, we did do a lot of reloads in these drills, so having just a 20-round mag wasn't an issue at all. So that was an interesting sample size. What else?
Yeah.
Homeboy with the MP5 as just the Gucci run, which was interesting.
Yep. So he had a MP5 variant with a suppressor on it.
And
very
true
interesting.
SBR, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Turkish-made MP5.
Yeah, he did have the burst on it as well, which he was able to rattle off. And for him, some of it was, I think he was competing, but it was more for fun. But it's interesting with the burst, so he was getting by with that burst at like 200 yards and still hitting
I
stuff.
don't know if it would be a burst. He had the FRT in it.
Right, but I mean, he wasn't
a specific third switch.
Right, you're right. Yeah, but he was doing 3 to 5 round bursts, and he was getting some really good accuracy with them.
Well, on the long shot event with that long distance, that 200-yard target, he ripped off 5 rounds, and all 5 rounds impacted.
Yeah, but the issue was he only had a unmagnified red dot on it, and then once he started going past 200, he was having some issues. But that was only for one event. After that, he was good for the rest of them, which was pretty cool. What else for rifles?
There's a lot of AR-15s, what you can expect.
Yeah, was there anything?
Lengths.
Yeah, was there anything else besides ARs? Was it just those 2 that had something different? Oh, with Nico, of course, with his AK.
Yeah.
That we've already talked about.
Yeah, with the AK, I think that was about it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember when we had the rifles all laid out on the table while running the 2 pistol events. I was trying to look it over and see if there was anything interesting. And as far as I know, that was it. Everybody else, including you and me, were rocking AR-15s. Now, those AR-15s, there was not a single one that was alike.
Yeah, so starting with barrel length, I don't know if there are any 20 inches, but 16 down to 11.5, you had almost every major one. I don't know about 13.9s, but there would be definitely 11.5s, so you had your 14.5s, you had your 14.5 pin and welds, you had your 16s, some suppressed, some not. A little more suppressors than 2023, if I recall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would say at least at least half of the people had suppressors.
I would say it's more like 40, 30%, but that's still more than last time.
Yeah.
Last time it was maybe 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's cool to see that. Of course, if this event is not particularly close quarters oriented, we didn't even do the room cleaning you saw back in 2023 in that video. So even with the longer guys, a lot of them would still put the suppressors on it and had no problem ability-wise. So it's cool seeing them kind of get out to long distance. In terms of optics on those rifles, I saw one ACOG, one LCAN, and then it was 50 split between unmagnified red dots and then magnified red dots with like magnifiers or LPVOs. I would say LPVOs generally were, those and unmagnified red dots were the most common.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because for me, I don't know why, but I just don't see a lot of LPVOs as much in my area. So seeing these competitions is interesting to see that people use, including yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Then the ACOG I saw, the LCAN, the unmagnified red dots. The red dots varied a lot. EOTech was obviously the most common, such as myself. But they also had a bunch of different ones down to like Hollow Suns, down to SIGs and whatnot. And they all performed fine. I mean, I don't remember there being an optic issue outside of your own hole zeroing issues.
Yeah.
Which I guess we'll get to in a minute, but there actually was some issues with that. Now, in terms of the handguns, what were some handguns you guys saw?
I wasn't the only one that had a 2011 there. There were two other people because we were talking about them.
I would say outside of the Glock family, the 2011 family was the second most common handgun out there, which is very surprising.
So I know at least two because we were talking about the different ones we had. Glock was very popular out there. I know a couple of SIGs were getting grammed because I cracked a couple of MD jokes about them.
Yeah, so I saw one guy with a custom 320. What I found interesting was I didn't see any SIG 365s, but I saw a couple of 365 XLs, which I thought was interesting, including myself. Yep.
MP5 guy during one of the
That's right.
events, he pulled out a suppressed
Taurus.
pistol. Oh, it was Taurus. Okay, yeah.
And then,
I saw that he just pulled out the suppressor on. I was like, okay, cool, bet.
Was that the 22LR one?
Yeah, and the problem was it couldn't hit the plate, so he had to borrow a gun for some of the drills. But it was still super cool to see.
Yeah.
So there was that. No revolvers. Not particularly surprised at that, but interesting. It was literally zero. Now, in terms of optics, I would say it was, 70% had red dots on their handguns?
I'd say easily somewhere within the 70 to 80% range. There were red dots on the optics.
Yep. And then anything else about handguns before I move to gear?
I don't think there was anything else weird or fancy. Nobody had suppressors on the pistols except for that 22.
Yep.
That was the only one that had a suppressor on it.
Yeah. And then going to gear, I would say the most common was no body armor, no helmet, combat pants. But then they would rock the t-shirt because it was a little hot for some of them. And then they would just have a decent pistol belt loadout. And you could tell a lot of it was, some of it was specifically for like competition and range days. Others, it was clearly integrated with plate carrier that they did not bring because body armor is no longer mandated. Some of the early years, they did mandate it, so people like Nico would.
Very first year, and then all the way up until this time.
Yeah, the second year they technically did too.
Yeah, and most of those gear loadouts are pretty much the same, and there's a good reason. You got the IFAK, got your good handgun holster and a thigh rig, got a couple of handgun and rifle mags. Water sources they didn't bring, which kind of got a couple of them. Granted, they're very accommodating at the range, so they would hand out water bottles, but I did see a lot of them not have hydration. Outside of that, there were a couple with some plate carriers and some body armor. The only person who wore hard side plates and front and back plates was Nico, which we talked about in the gear talk.
Yeah.
And then outside of that, there was a couple guys with some vest, but no chest rig, like a tactical vest.
Yeah, the medic guy.
Yeah, but I didn't see anyone with a dedicated chest rig. Did you?
Not that I remember. There was like you said, the weird chest setup that he had, but it wasn't like a standard chest rig.
It would be called a tactical vest because it's a zip up.
Yeah.
So the gear was actually very common with the rest of them. Obviously, with us, as we talked about gear talk, we did more than just a competition rig. It was a complete overkill, but that's part of the training of why we attend this event. And of course, our times get hit by that a lot. But again, we're not in it to win it in that regard. We're here to get training value. Maybe next year, Nico might try to go for change out the loadout.
It's like change the loadout, but tradition, is like the spirit of what it was beginning.
Yep. Now, in terms of let's go back to the weapon. So the rifle and the handguns, there was nothing in terms of length or compactness that really gave you advantage or disadvantage in terms of like mobility. Some of the concealed carry handguns, which they were calling my 365 XL as one. There was a couple other smaller handguns that definitely had some issues. Well, they're just a little more unwieldy in comparison to the full-size handgun, just because of the weight, what's it called, the sight ratio, what's it called, the sight length, excuse me, and a couple other factors. But outside of that, the handguns and the rifles were fine in terms of length. Now, in terms of there was reliability, which we'll get to, and the other one I want to talk about real quick is zeroing. So at the end of the day, most of these handguns and rifles are actually very good quality, perfectly fine for competition like this. The biggest issue I saw was a lot of guys did not have particularly the most refined zeros. Or at the very least, they did not know how to manipulate them that well. A lot of them chose speed over accuracy sometimes. And, you know, to be fair, the way the points work, if you want to game the system, that absolutely worked. However, there were a couple times I saw some guys with some nice rifle and handgun loadouts, and they would hit, and they would go for a target, and they would miss like a 25 or 50-yard target like multiple times. Granted, it's standing, you're running, but meanwhile, all of us are over there, and we're hitting usually much better. And it was kind of weird seeing that. And then the long distance shot, there's a lot of guys who, I don't know how many outside the MP5 guy who necessarily could not complete the long shot drill, but a lot of people were having some issues, missing a lot at those further distances. And that is more of a challenge for a lot of people. We talked about it in the Gear Talk with me, shooting out that distance, but I was still able to do it, and I did it on magnified. So it was interesting to see a lot of these guys. You would think they would maybe take that as a good lesson to kind of refine the zeros. As for reliability,
So is that a jacket
so
or a scar?
for the, I guess, we'll start with the rifles. What do you guys see reliability-wise, like issues from the other participants out there?
The extended rail helps a lot to stead, I guess, for sure.
I didn't catch anything.
No, there wasn't anything that was super.
Yeah.
There was a couple of people. I don't know. The issue is that the one that they had the two guys reset on, we were at the bottom of the hill already, so we have no idea what happened up top.
That's true. Yeah, I know they had handgun issues, but I'm trying to think if there were any rifle issues. I don't think there really were.
Well,
I think people drop mags out of their gear sometimes, but they still had mags on them and then a weapon.
Yeah, but the long shot one, there was the two that they had them redo, but I don't know if that was for some reason like a zeroing issue or if that was a rifle malfunction issue. There was the one guy I remember that they no, that was with the handgun.
And one of them had a issue getting the targets in the correct sequence on that long shot. But yeah,
that was one of those two. He shot the wrong target.
Yeah, I do feel like there was something else that happened up there that's jogging my memory.
Well, I'm wondering if we're thinking about the pistol one because there was the one guy that redid that was clearing.
No, that wasn't it. It was the same guy, but it wasn't for that. Okay, so let's go to handguns. So I guess the first one was that guy who was with our group because the first couple of drills they split us in half. He had a 365 XL, no manual safety. And what happened, because I was talking with him afterwards, he said it was the slide was moving forward, like it wasn't locking back, but it wasn't feeding around either, even though the mag was fully seated. And you could like look down the chamber or the slide and see the mag was fully seated, it just wasn't feeding it. And he, kind of redid the stage, kind of double checked everything, loaded it beforehand, make sure it was good. I think part of the issue was he also started with the round not in the chamber, which also exacerbated the problems. And then after that, I think he was good. But that was a weird one that happened really early on. And I found it interesting because it's the same handgun I would use. It was a little more customized, but same type model. I know there was a guy, the MP5 guy, he borrowed someone's Glock. And again, it's someone else's handgun. I don't know if he's riding the slide, but the way he had multiple, I think it was failures to feed as well. Is that?
Yeah, I think it was failure to because I think it was ejecting, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't closing.
He said there was a compensator at the end of it. He was wondering if that might have been part of it. So that was interesting. It's a Glock, but also if you customize it and do it the wrong way, you could still have some issues. Anything else handgun wise? You guys recall?
I'm trying to think through the event. I can't think of anything.
No. I think I might have had. I think there was one I started without a round in the chamber, and I forgot. I could be wrong on that.
Yes.
Yeah, but I fixed. I mean, you just pull the slide back.
Yeah.
But I think that was it. Yeah. So I mean, overall, all the weapons worked very well, which is unsurprising, and that's good. So, okay. So we've gone through everyone else's equipment. We already did Gear Talk on around. let's go through each of the drills. So the first one, we have a list here. We're just going to start with the long shot, which for us, because the first 3 drills were split into different groups, or at least the first 2. So we actually did the long shot second. We'll go through it first. So long shot. That one, you start at the base of a hill with a small, it's like a 15-pound weight. It wasn't really that bad. And you run up by about 10 yards uphill. It actually wasn't that bad of a distance. I thought it was going to be longer. Go up there. There's a shooting mat for you. Shooting mat got stopped up nose. And then you can make the choice of either just resting on the ground near the shooting mat, or you can use that weight with the handle on it as a rest for your rifle. It's your choice. From there, you had 5 targets. One was around, 150, and then it was 150, 2, 250, 3, and then the last one was the big 360 yards. I'm getting the yardage a little wrong, but that's roughly it. And that means if you were right, you did it in 10 rounds. Now, for most of these drills, it was Utah first, then me, then Nico, right? Is that how we did it? So Utah, you go through yours and explain some stuff. Utah, you first.
So for the long shot, I almost kind of felt like that the mat was kind of to throw you off there a little bit, because the advice that he gave, which I found very useful, was you just had to get to the top of the hill. I didn't use the tank, but I also had a grip pod on mine, so I had a support platform built into my rifle. And I positioned myself more towards the back end of the hill because it felt more natural to be kind of leaning upwards with the rifle, and that actually helped with sighting in at the 360. I only had a few shots of the 62 grains, but for the most part, everything was good. That last target was the one that I kind of had a couple of shots go, but they guided me onto it. Once I hit it, I kind of realized, okay, this is my distances for the ammo.
Yeah, so what was
It was fairly simple.
Yeah, so what was your hold at those longer targets with your LPVO? You had a SIG LPVO. And then what was your hold? And remember, you made a good point about you usually train with 55 grain, but you use these 62 grain non-green tips ammunition you had. What was interesting you were talking about was when you got out to longer distances, your rounds are dropping shorter than what you're used to, which makes sense because the grain's heavier.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. But yeah, what was your hold on that?
I want to say, in comparison to what I normally would have done, I could almost, out of the bottom of the reticle before you start getting to the hash marks, normally it's about 300. I could hit roughly at about 350 still using that. I actually had to get closer to the first hash mark that would mark about the 400-yard range. I did have to bring that up and kind of center it a bit more before getting shots on targets. But even, you know, and it wasn't that I was putting it on center and it was hitting low, because the spotters were telling me afterwards that my groups were tight for the most part when I was getting them on target. But yeah, I had to use those hash marks for the first time because the range that I go to is about 320 yards, and I just have to use the bottom of the reticle to hit those.
So 320 is the longest you ever fired up to this point?
I believe so. I think it was 300, 325 was the furthest that I have fired.
Was the 360 yard the longest shot you ever took, Nico?
Yep.
Yeah. So
before this, it was 340 with a 308 Winchester on 62
yeah. I mean, we're only talking about maybe a couple dozen more yards, but it's still interesting to see how quickly you're able to adapt just to that extra distance.
Well, I was saying, also on that rifle, I was using the actual like a 1x6, and then this one was just red dot with 3x, so it was a little bit more challenging as well.
Yeah. Anything else for yours? Is that
no, I mean, it was a fairly simple event. Just glad they started halfway up the hill instead of all the way down at the bottom.
There was a second line to keep everyone else back, and when I saw it first, I thought, oh, that's another 10, 15 yards we got to add, but they didn't make us do it, which I appreciated. Okay, so for me, same thing. Went up the hill pretty decent. Got there. I did use the little weight as a hold because I just had the rail and the magazine. My biggest thing, and again I talk about a lot in the gear talk, is I chose a unmagnifying ear tech. I knew this drill was coming up the day before, and I was very worried on this one essentially being the most challenging one for me. And we tried it the evening before. I thought it went pretty well, so I decided, no, I'm not going to use a magnifier for this event. For me, I have the Donut of Death plus the 4 dots in it, so I can compensate for longer distances. I think I missed once or twice, and then maybe once or twice at the last target, but overall I thought I did fine. The 360 yarder, I did have to go a little higher, which is fine. But the interesting part was two things. One, I already mentioned in another video, which is the 55 grain to 62 grain difference. I zero 62 grain green tips, but I use 55 grain for the competition because I don't want to damage someone's steel. And it worked pretty well. I didn't really have to compensate much for it until you started getting really far out at the 160 yards. Until then, I could usually just line up the target and point, take into elevation account, but that was about it. And one thing I did see though was even in the broad daylight, we definitely had a lot more issues in the evening when it was low light. We tried it the Friday evening. However, even in the daytime, I turned the optic on, and in the middle of it, as I started getting further out, I had to lower the brightness setting on it to not completely black out the target, so I could still see it through the target, but through the reticle. Then I do have a 100 Concepts kill flash on here, yeah, I think that's what's called, or flash height or whatever, on the optic. If you going unmagnified, trying to focus on a target at such a distance, for the first time I really started to see the honeycombs kind of start to get in the way of it, especially in the low light conditions that evening before, which was an interesting detail I haven't really considered before. Usually with magnification, it just punches through the honeycombs, you don't see it. Unmagnified, you can sometimes have some issues. But overall, I did fine. That was probably the biggest one I was worried about. We knocked it out pretty early, and I was very satisfied with it. There were some guys with some unmagnified red dots that were definitely struggling a lot more, even at like the 200-yard target, which was very worrying. So that's what I have to say about it. Nico?
So I chose to use the can as a type of rest since I'm trying to use the magazine. The little bit thinner Croatian magazine was not going to be best. I use strictly just the red dot for the 100 to 200, 250 yard target, and by the end of it, or actually the second to last target, I flipped on the magnifier to just so that way I can first see the target, then I flipped it off, just so that way I can make sure that my hold was right with the red dot. It's just the differentiation between the magnifier and the red dot, trying to make sure that the glass was lined up, and I just went with the red dot up until the 360 yard. It wasn't difficult to really see. By that point, there wasn't a whole lot of shade. It was just making sure that my glass and my eye were just lined up just so that way I can see it. So it ate up quite a bit of time instead of just going from target to target. But my hold, I definitely had to do a hold, but I think it was ultimately just,
there you go.
it wasn't like too high or too low, but it was, I think it was a little bit like high and right in order to make sure, but yeah.
Yeah, so something I noticed, and I was talking with you afterwards, was if you're using 7.62 by 39, I know the caliber can definitely make it to those distances. It's just a very different dynamic. I understand it drops a lot more in 5.56 longer out. And seeing you still able to hit those targets pretty consistently, I was very impressed. Both with the weapon, your own skill and whatnot. And I thought that was pretty neat. I mean, definitely with, you know, I make fun of the Sestava, how it looks if you load out. But at the end of the day, like, it still performs. In a proper AK, it's still a very competent weapon system. You know, people sometimes go too extreme and just completely don't, you know, kind of, what's the word, just underestimate it.
Yeah, I mean, my hold was not egregious. It was just very slightly, and the spotter was able to walk me through for just a very minute thing. And even then, when I did miss, it was like just shy off the target. Yeah. It wasn't like feet from the feet or feet from the head. It was just very minute, and it was maybe my own error too of trying to get nice and stabilized and breathing control. Because by 300, you are going to need breathing control with the by 39 round.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. So the next one we have here is Renegade, which should have been the handgun one, right?
Yeah, that was the first one we did.
Yep, so for Renegade, what that is, you start about 10 meters away, or 10 yards away from a roughly a 35, 40 pound ammo can. On go, you run up to it, pick it up, put it on top of some stairs nearby, just over your head. Run over to a shooting barrier with different holes in it, and you have to do 2 handgun, standing, crouch, and prone. Of course, they want you to use the murder holes. There's a large black silhouette target, what, like 10 yards away, you would say? 10,
About, yeah.
I would say 10.
Yeah, and then from there you move to the left where there was a roof barrier that you can climb on top of. You shot a white target that was smaller and also at like 20-25 yards.
Yeah, that's 25.
Yeah. So Utah, you went first again. So how'd it go?
Well, that one I went last on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Weird.
I was...
You were first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go through that.
Yeah, so running in that full kit to deadlift something was very fun and entertaining, but getting that that ammo can up on the shelf wasn't that bad. Then running to the murder hole, got myself situated because I am on a double action with a Beretta. I decided to take that extra second just to pull back the hammer instead of trying to fight through the double action, because otherwise spend the time to pull the double action just to either fib it and then restart all over again. But so did that. Top was fine. I don't think I missed on that one. Maybe in the center I missed one shot. Prone definitely missed anything. But with the different size holes, I preferred to use the smaller holes, so that way I had a little bit more means of rest, or like I guess following through the aim small, miss small. But no, that was fine. Getting up and sprinting over to the roof. The night before, I was very aggressive getting on that roof, and I was able to really lock in and be fine. This time around, I don't know what got into me, but I was a little bit more hesitant trying to climb up into it. Maybe it's because everyone was looking at me.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, just mounting it, get prone with it, use that roof as your support beam, and then just let it rip after that. So
yeah. The something I saw interesting was you mentioned the smaller murder holes what you chose, because they're of each stance, standing, crouch, and prone. There's about 3 or 4 options you could choose from, various sizes. With you with that full-size handgun, that Beretta, going through the smaller murder hole, I kind of whispered to Zach, and I was like, I really hope that slide doesn't hit back that barrier and jam the gun. Thankfully, when you push through it, you put most of the handgun through it, so and some space in between, because you're using the rest more on your hands than the bottom of the gun. So it kept it from jamming. But I was kind of gritting my teeth at first, thinking, uh-oh, there might be an issue here. And then because you went first, out of the 3 of us, I saw you go prone lay on the roof barrier the night before when we tried that one, because the first 3 we were able to kind of mess with the night before. I stood up and went all the way up to the other bar and shot down. When I saw you go prone, I thought, oh, that's way better, and I followed your example after that. For me, I don't think I missed. I went for the larger murder holes despite having a smaller handgun. I don't know why, it's just easier to get to it. Just kind of see the area. And then after that, I just went to the roof barrier and shot fine. For me, I mentioned in the gear talk, training on small steel targets for most of my private range time, and then going to these competitions that have larger steel targets is very much a blessing. I just use iron sights on my handgun, and just lining it up, it just works so well. There are some people who would still consistently miss throughout this event, and I was always kind of surprised because their weapon loadouts and gear was usually pretty high quality. Utah?
At least lifting up the canister wasn't too difficult. I do that for my job all the time, so having the weight, because the big thing was it wasn't just like you poured a bunch of sand into the bottom of the ammo can. I felt like you threw weights in there, so when you lifted it up, it shifted. I had no issues with that. My company I work for sucks at packaging things, so I was right at home there. Murder holes felt like they were fine. The roof is always kind of a little bit tricky on getting the footing going up, depending if you're going too fast. I think I saw a couple of people slip when they were going.
That's true. Someone did fall during that drill, didn't they?
Yeah, so there was a couple where you could see that they hesitated on their footing or whatnot. I'd slow down right before and then go up to get there. I had more the issues of getting off of it than anything, but other than that, yeah, I mean, it was just choosing the 3 different murder holes. The going prone was kind of interesting, but didn't really have a whole lot of issues. I think I just barely skewed to the left on one of the shots on prone, but then quickly followed it up and put a shot on
I think he's taller than me, Nico.
So, yeah, it was a good event. Whereas the first one, I think it was good to kind of wake up everything, get it going,
Yep.
get everything moving. Wasn't too tough. decent cardio, so yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yep. Next one is paddle. So this one you start in a pickup truck. Your rifle's on your side in the passenger seat. You sit in the driver's seat. On go, you get out on the driver's side. Take your rifle with you. Run in front of the truck. You do not have to close the door. They stress that because a lot of us took some time to close it. It's just human tendency. Go forward to a wooden panel, and you would shoot 3 different targets, varying from 150 to just over 200, I think. No, right at 200. It wasn't too bad. After that, so 2, 2, and 2. Run back behind the truck. There was a hay bale spool, wire spool. Shot another target at 150 twice. You then turned to your right, went prone, and fired at 2 steel targets twice that were at 100 yards, maybe 120 yards each. Wasn't too bad. Who went first on this one? Was it Utah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went first. Literally the first person, not just out of us, at all the other events. So.
Which, by the way, happened a lot because I don't know just how the naming went, and that I think that also screwed you up a couple times because you didn't get to see how other players or other participants did it as much. There was usually Sean who went first to give the example, but after that, you were the first a lot of times.
Yeah, I wasn't everyone except for that.
Yep. So how'd paddle go for you?
Paddle felt like it was. Paddle felt like it was fine. The opening up the door, grabbing the rifle, and getting out. Like we talked about in the gear, our belt systems, LB adjacent or whatnot, are built for vehicles. So you could definitely tell when I'm getting in there. You have one of the comments at one of the other later vehicle ones when we had to put the seatbelt on. One of the range officers, I think it was Sean, made a comment and said there's a lot going on there, and I said, yeah, well, this setup isn't meant for getting in and for mechanized, as he'd say. And so that was kind of making sure to get out, but I didn't have any equipment snag. I didn't have anything prevent me from getting out of the vehicle or delay me, but I was also kind of conscious about it and making sure that I was getting everything moved.
Right.
So that could have slowed down times. But then outside of that, getting the rifle, even though I have a sling, I didn't sling it over me when I grabbed the rifle from vehicles. I did one point, but that's because we had to do something else. But for the most part, I didn't use the sling, and I just kept running. Once again, another prone one, just like with long shot. I was glad to have that grip pot there because the other ones of using the barriers, it was all right, but just being able to drop down prone and have that bipod there, I think those were probably my fastest groupings that I had. Was as fast as I could pull the trigger. I got hit, and then next target, hit, like
Yeah, you actually did really well in those last 2 prone. Because I remember you pulled the grip pod out, and like usually there's that delay of like, you shoot, you hear the steel, you hear the RSO yell hit, you just went for it, and that worked really well for you.
Yeah.
So was I next? Or?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for me, same thing with the belt kicking out of the vehicle, but it was fine for that one. Went to the wall.
Nice.
I think I missed once for some reason. I think I just pulled it to the left or something. Outside that, I was fine. Ran into the spool. I was good. Overall, like things just went pretty well for that one. So I don't have too much to say. I will say for some of these vehicle ones with the rifle sling, I mentioned the gear talk. I fold my rifle sling over to make sure it doesn't dangle. Especially with the helmet I was wearing, I knew I wouldn't be able to get it back on quickly. There's some guys who could. They crushed it pretty well, but I didn't see anyone's slings get caught on anything. What you did have, though, is if you had a dangling sling that wasn't being used, sometimes the competitors didn't really know what to do with the sling. So sometimes they would hesitate, try to put it on, some wouldn't, and kind of stop halfway. I don't know how much time that really took off them, but there was some hesitancy there, so it was either wear the sling or fold up the sling. I didn't see many people fold it up, so that was the only detail I would add. Nico?
So, got into the truck, tried to place the rifle in a good enough position to grab and get out.
Alright, thank you guys.
On go, grabbed the rifle, but it was either my footing or I overreached to grab the rifle. Me exiting the vehicle just ate up too much time for no good reason. I think it was just either I wanted it on the seat, but I couldn't have it on the seat, so it was just aimed at floorboard or something like that. But either way, I just ate up too much time just trying to vacate. Ran to the wall, got to the wall, got seated up just fine. but for that change from, or just losing that 100 yards from moving to, from long shot to paddle, I was trying to realign myself, get right, and then for some reason I was just shooting like
There you go.
just low or something like that. I don't know why I wasn't getting lined up or not, but either way, eventually I finally got to it. Don't think I used my magnifier. I think maybe for the blue target I used the magnifier again. But everything else was just red dot, sprint over to the spool. Spool was perfectly fine. And then got into prone and I just wasn't able to get lined up again quick enough for the prone targets. Because I saw that it was taking me such a long time for it standing. Just getting prone, just eat that time, getting lined up, because the last thing I want to do is just just consistently miss. So probably got into my own head more than I should have.
There we go.
But I still got through it just fine.
Okay, good. Next one was tourniquet blues. So how this one work? You start in the car with your rifle in the back seat on with the window rolled down on the right side. So you start in the driver's seat with your handgun on the right passenger side, the window rear side. But you on go, you pop out. There was a target to your 10 to 11 o'clock by about 5 yards. Then to your 2 o'clock on the other side of the hood of the vehicle by about 6 yards or so. Then you went behind. There was another target right there when you turn that corner behind the car. Shoot that one twice as well. Had a dummy in the passenger seat with the tourniquet on the dashboard. Pull him out, put the tourniquet on one of his legs, go in the back seat, pull out your rifle, and then behind you at around 100 yards, you had to hit a steel target twice. The catch was the 3 paper targets that surrounded you in the vehicle had a white portion, a black portion. If you hit the black portion, then you had a time delay unless you shot that second time again to try to counteract it. And they were different shapes. Like one was like 50-50, one was like a strip, so you only had like a small rectangle to hit, another one was like diagonal. So that was kind of neat. I'm surprised I only showed up for that one drill. That would have been kind of cool to see again, at least one other time. Utah, you went first on this one? Yep.
Yeah. I remember specifically that Sean said it was kind of a little bit of the equalizer, and it was because, I mean, personally, for me, as well as a lot of other people, those who were shooting well got hung up on the tourniquet.
Yeah, so there's actually a couple of EMT and medics who were there who did a pretty decent job, but not everyone, has the basics on just even a tourniquet.
Mm-hmm. I put the tourniquet on technically reverse side over, so I got some time eaten out that I had to turn around and flip the tourniquet over properly to get it cinched down. Windage. That one wasn't too bad. I think I thought I hit everything, but I heard I got a -2 on there.
Yeah, so you hit one of the blacks.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing that.
Force of habit.
Yeah, and then we won't talk about it too much because we already talked about the gear talk. But when you got to the rifle, you had the delayed. Was it the delayed firing because of the mechanical issue?
Yeah, basically, gun didn't want to fire when it wanted to, and then when I flipped the safety all the way over into fire, it engaged the rifle. And then after that, I took the shots. I probably could have reset them. I have a mindset of that I prefer clearing jams in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But I'm never there for times. I know I'm going to be in last place. So for me, it was just more of the experience of having it jammed in the middle under I say stress-induced, but just being fatigued from the other events, still being tired, having the adrenaline. It's for me, I actually like it when my equipment faults because it runs through my head of what to do, what do I need to do. So that was I always kind of try to look at the bright side on that one at least of say that it was a good training experience. There's very few times that you can have something like that go off of and diagnose it, or sometimes it's difficult to self-induce an issue like that. But so far, I mean, a lot of the events that went through here, there isn't really much to mention on outside of maybe one or two. They were all fairly simple. They ran fairly well. Most of the time there was something to mention that was outside factors. I agree with you. I like the way that the targets had different portions for to go shoot and not shoot. I hope to see that return, if not in number, next year as well. So that was a fairly interesting that was a fairly unique take on it. The other 2 times that I had been there, and I'm pretty sure the 3 times that you had been
load his rifle
prior,
beforehand.
He hasn't done anything like that. I think there was the one time that we had, like, I think 1 hostage, 1 kill house in either 22 or 23.
No.
For me, going through it went fine. Got to the tourniquet. So this is something I remember back in 2023 as well.
Yep.
And I asked him just before the jolt began, which was, I know I have to take the dummy out of the car. Do I have to open the door because the window's down and this dummy's like 30 pounds max?
Ready.
So I just pulled him through the window and just grabbed the tourniquet. When you put the tourniquet on, the leg becomes like as tight as like your wrist. So you kind of wrap it up the tourniquet a bunch of times. But overall, I did fine on it. The guy before me went prone for the rifle shoot. They never specified what stance you had to take, supported, unsupported. So I just grabbed it, opened the door, and I was already on the ground because of the tourniquet. So I kind of, shimmied over, opened the door, crouched, and went prone, took the shots, and I was fine. So overall, that one went pretty well for me. Nico?
So for this one, because I was the last one, everybody was wigged. I couldn't have anything recorded, so I asked one of the other practitioners to record it, and I was still need to send you the video. But as for a fanfare, whenever I would do like a training or an event thing that involves a vehicle, I always add in the character Dimitri, so the dummy became Dimitri. Getting into the vehicle was fine, getting myself set up. I was allowed to have the firearm not in my holster, but actually like on the console somewhere. So that way I didn't have to... I was running like the slowest holster of the entire group anyways.
Real quick, so I know in the next drill they did that. They also let you do that for that one too?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I know for us we both had them holstered, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I know the second one definitely just throw it somewhere, but I'm pretty sure that I put it into the console. Because my draw was very fast. Yeah, I don't remember fighting that at all.
Okay.
But, yep, so Alex and Present took the extra moment to make sure that I was lined up and head for the black. First target was fine, second target was fine. Getting out of the vehicle, going around, third target. And then I chose to open the door for Dimitri because I was still in character, trying to get him down situated. Winding up the tourniquet, it didn't feel like forever until looking back on the footage. I was like, God almighty, it just feels forever winding up a tourniquet for some reason. But then I grabbed the rifle, proceeded, and because it was still on a shorter distance, my height over bore for the red dot versus bore was still off, so I was like spiffing it just underneath.
Were you standing or what?
I was standing, yeah.
Okay.
So I was just biffing my first shot, so second time hit, and third time I thought I hit, and I flipped up the safety, but nobody told me hit, so I like ate another few seconds to get the safety off and to hit the target again. So that one was just sucky. I was in there full character doing my own bit. I made the other competitors around me laugh. They loved it. They loved the whole bit, but just did I hit it? Nope. Oh crap! I got to restart it. Damn. But but no, it was a very fun event.
Yeah, of all the events so far, I'd say one key AAR comment Range 51 could take away is they keep using that dummy. I know it's hard to get some, but they could either make the dummy heavier or get a heavier one, or roll up the window so you have to open the door so people don't game it. I think that'll be fine. Because if you have the window roll down, it's like a 80, 100 pound plus dummy. Different situation, easier said than done to pull it out. But I would say that's the only AAR comment I would have to add to that one. Anything else for you guys? Okay. Next one is Little Memphis. So this one, you start in a smaller vehicle, and your handgun is out of the holster. You can put it in the passenger seat, you can put it on the dashboard, whatever you want. They removed the glass in the front of the vehicle, and staring at you was a steel plate pulled up of 6 small steel targets. It was 6, right? Or was it 5? I think it was 6.
I think it was 6 or 7.
I think it was
6.
I think it was 6. So on go, you grab your handgun. Again, it's already unholstered. Fire the 6 till all the plates drop. Exit the vehicle. Do something with your handgun. Just retain it somehow. Holster it. Put it in your dump pouch. Whatever. Behind you in the passenger seat with the buttstock hanging out of the down window, you grab your rifle. You will then run down to a orange box that was probably 15 yards away, and then you would hit 2 steel targets, one at 50, one at like 60, 75, twice with the rifle standing in that box. And that was that. Zach, oh sorry.
That one was interesting because I think that was the only one out of the 3 vehicles that we had to be seatbelted.
Correct. Yes.
So that was fairly interesting to have to take the seatbelt and try to make sure to get it in. Even with my gear, the button was actually reachable because the seatbelt actually kind of compressed some of the stuff to the side. So the getting seatbelt part was a little more difficult, but that didn't matter because it wasn't under time. But the non-seatbelt portion. Other than that, that one I actually felt really nice for. Most of the shots, I had 2 shots that were just slightly low, so I hit the target but not enough to flip them. And then the unbuckling, getting out of the vehicle, could kind of feel the gear. Nothing got snagged, but I could tell it was a little more cumbersome getting out with that belt system. And then grabbing the rifle and running over to the box. Luckily, they had letters or some identifiers spray painted onto the targets. There were 3 targets out in that direction, and I shot one of them that was technically the further, which most people don't do. Luckily, the RSO, who was running the timer, recognized what I was doing and saw my rifle swing to the wrong target and corrected me, and I was able to swing back fairly quickly and get the other 2 shots out. I definitely feel that fatigue starting to set in towards the ending of the day.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is you're now starting to see the integration of handgun and rifle together. And yeah, with 30 personnel, even though it was just 7 instead of 7 drills instead of the 10 of 2023, it was definitely taking some attrition on you. Okay, anything else?
No, again, it was another fun event. It was fairly quick, being able to do the shooting from the scene or from the seat with the seatbelt on. It's kind of one of those things that it makes you feel like you're out of either like one of the Jack Ryan shows or something like that. It's just kind of cool how the events go. That you can kind of put yourself in that. And I think it adds to the fun factor of taking these scenarios of things that could end up happening, but are a little more far-fetched for the common person, I would say.
Yeah. So for me, this was probably the slowest one proportionally, in my opinion, that I did. Probably the worst one I did. I had the big belt kit on. Buckling up wasn't hard. I had just enough space. One thing I did do for some of the handgun drills is I did take my gloves off for them, just put in my dump pouch. So I was barehanded for this, and I had enough space to hit the buckle once I buckled in. It was the smallest vehicle we went into. It was like a Honda Acura type size, and it was fine even with the belt kit. My head wasn't hitting the top of the roof too bad, but you do have to position yourself maneuvering in and out. Fired. I kept the seatbelt on when I was firing. I think that's what you're supposed to do, but I don't think they penalized you if you did it first. I did my handgun on the dashboard, which helped out a lot because I would grab it off the dashboard and then use the wheel and the dashboard to kind of help support the handgun.
Appreciate it.
I think I hit this steel bar once, but overall I did pretty good knocking out the plates real quick. Now what slowed me down is when I opened the door, ideally with that much kit on you, how bulky it is, once you take the belt off, you want to kick your feet out first. This is something Nico taught me in the training session before the competition. I don't know if I hesitated to put my upper body first and then stopped and fixed myself. It was only a second or two difference, but I could feel it. Kicked out, and then when I had the handgun out, before I grabbed my rifle, I put it on safety and purposely put it back into the holster, which I had in the mag pouch. And all that I could feel was slowing me down. Then I grabbed the rifle, and I was fine after that. So that was probably the worst one I performed on. Nico?
Using the steering wheel was key. So it was definitely just having an anchor of some sorts. And then just choosing left to right, only biffed it twice. And the funny thing was that while I was trying to get in there, the e-brake was in my way, so I had to dislodge the e-brake. So it was kind of just funny with the idea that the car would just start rolling towards the targets at some point.
I think you're the only one. So you did that before the timer began. You did ask Arso if you could do so. You're also like the only one who did that. I know we had the biggest kit on, but I still thought it was a fun detail.
Oh yeah. And then so because trying to buckle in, I already knew it was going to be difficult on the way in. On the way out, it was going to be the same thing. So my philosophy was door first, make space, then punch the seatbelts. So in that, I was able to slip out of that very quickly. Didn't even get snagged on the seatbelt on the way out too. I thought I was going to get hung up. But no, holster it, then rifle, just sprint to the X, and I did really well on just, hitting the 2 steel targets. So there was nothing else to go about it. I still played the Dimitri card, still made a bunch of people laugh, so that was a good highlight, but yeah, no.
Okay, next one is Tombstone. This is a very unique one. So you have 4 steel plate targets. Actually, I think there were 5 of them. And it was just one of those targets where it's a bar, you shoot it, it flips to the other side. The steel plates are like 3 by 3 inches, something like that, not too big. And they start out all in one row. You have your handgun unloaded, handgun only vent, already down. Your single magazine is out, empty, and you have 8 rounds just loosely put on the table. And behind you, about 10 yards, is just a wooden pole. And at go, you have to run to the wooden pole, touch it, come back, load a single round into your handgun magazine, load your handgun, aim, and fire. And you have to do that 4 times. And every time you shoot, whether you hit the plate or not, you have to run back to the pole. So you definitely get your cardio in, get your heart rate up. Now, one thing they did give the caveat on was there was a bench rest and a sandbag on the table, and they said you could totally use it. It was perfectly fine. Definitely a bit gamey doing so, but as we'll talk about, it definitely helped a lot if you did choose that option. Utah, you went first?
Yeah. One little thing with it is when you fire, you have to put the gun back down and then go and run. So you don't take it with you or anything. So you had to put the gun down, run back, grab it, go forward, and then load one round. I saw people doing it 2 ways. Me, I felt like it didn't really matter a whole lot to drop the magazine out because I felt like I could load it faster than trying to fumble. Some people left the empty magazine inside and would load a round in through into the slide directly so that they didn't have to try to put the magazine in there. This was the only... There were 2 events specifically, I believe, that actually had a requirement that you could DNF, that you could fail. The first one was long shot, because even though it was only 10 rounds, you only had 1 magazine, whatever that magazine was. Obviously, he was referencing 30 rounds. On a technicality, I had 53 to try and complete it. This one, everybody only had 8 shots. Now, whether if you shot 4 or you shot 8 to get those, if you fired... In my end, I missed the first 5 shots. I didn't even fire the other 3 after that. I ended up getting hit with a DNF on it, which pretty much knocked me out of any timings, but that didn't matter. If I can see here, it looks like it took out 7 people.
Yep. And
that's what he was mentioning, was that was a big one that he purposefully threw in there because he knew it was going to eliminate some people. I know that we haven't really talked about times, but when it really gets into the more competitive aspect, that was a big game changer, because within the top 5, you had sub 220 seconds for a lot of those. One of the guys that did not finish had a time of 216, and he dropped all the way to 23rd out of everybody because of his times. But it was definitely difficult. A lot of it was beating yourself. I had no idea what I was doing wrong. I think just by the end of it, that fatigue was really setting in, that my brain was not understanding what I was doing wrong, and I think I just fired all 5 shots at the same thing, doing the same thing and expecting a different result and not adjusting properly. So I couldn't really tell necessarily what the issue was. Fired my 5 rounds, DNF'd, nothing you can really do about it at that point.
Yeah, so what we were talking about was the way the steel plates are set up, there is a small, like, 1-inch gap in between each one, and you weren't shooting usually to the left or right, it was going through the gap, hitting the dirt behind it. And I think part of that is you do have a red dot on there. Yes, you can see the iron sights, but I wonder if there was maybe a height over bore issue with that.
I wasn't using the red dot.
You won't?
No.
Okay.
Not at that distance. The red dot I only used during the Renegade for the 25-yard shot. at the longer distance, because I knew that I had it sighted at a longer, and those were, what, like 10, 15 yards away maybe. So...
Yeah, I would say, and also blending into my turn with it, I actually like the concept of having the risk of DQing. It was definitely heavily penalized because of that. That definitely screwed some guys over who definitely had overall better times than I did. I did like the humbling aspect of it. Because there was a lot of guys who would go for rifle and handgun. If they missed, they would just shoot rapidly and hit it, and they would take the miss penalty because that was a lot less painful in comparison to just being slow. This one was very different in that regard, and a lot of guys were not able to adapt. For me, I shot 5 times. I did do it. One of them I had a miss. However, that was made possible because I definitely used the bench rest. Again, I think it's a little bit of gaming the system, though I am glad I didn't DQ. And it's because I definitely used that bench rest, just took some time with it. What I will say, maybe a critique on that, is I actually would like to see that drill come back, but maybe make it to where you don't have the option of doing the bench rest. The idea is it's supposed to build up the heart rate and have to force you to kind of concentrate, and I think that's much more of a challenge if you do standing. For almost all the guys, I think at least 5 or 6 of the 7 that DQ, they never utilized the bench at all, and they definitely had a bad time with that. But overall, I like the drill. Nico?
So I was going yes for the bench rest, but because of it being such a small target, I was trying to shoot one-handed for a good bit of it, trying to actually like just stabilize and focus my eyesight on just using the one eye to shoot. But even then, I was still pulling to the left, so I wasted 2 rounds trying to do that. And then the next shot I hit. Actually, the next 2 shots. Did I miss? No, I missed another one. And then the last 2 shots I did hit, but my last hit did not flip the target. So that was the other thing too. Is like, yeah, sure, you can hit it, but you had to hit it at the right point to cause it to flip.
And the last 3 you used the bench, right? Because you used all 8 rounds, right?
Oh no, I couldn't use all 8.
Okay.
Yeah, because I missed a few. So by then I had like the 3 spare inch.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to cut it off because I couldn't make it.
Yeah. I saw a couple guys making fun of you doing the one hand, but that's, as we saw at the other training session, there was something to it. Because I don't know, you're weird, but you got something going. You got something going on with that one hand shoot. It did not work out for you for that one, but
and I hate it. It was just left. But I didn't see the impact, so I didn't know exactly how far off I was at that point.
Yeah. And something else I forgot to mention is, for me, I never took the handgun magazine out after the first one. I loaded the chamber. Again, I didn't have gloves on, but it absolutely did help the time. So yeah, I did that, and yeah, that's all I had on it. Anything else? No. Okay. Next one was Dead City. Is that the last one? Yeah. Last one was Dead City. This one, you started in the orange box that we used in the previous drill. You could either shoot while moving, or you could run forward to a reasonably safe distance from the steel targets and engage the 3 steel targets. Distance varied, but roughly it was like 40, 50, and like 55 yards, the 3 targets. Steel plates with the rifle. You then turn to your right, drop your rifle, better have a sling, which I think everyone did. Then pull out your handgun and engage 4 handgun steel targets once. It was only steel target for handgun. You only fired at once each. Utah, you went first?
Yeah, it was, that one wasn't too difficult, having the 3 targets up front with the 2, and then just turning to the right and hitting the 4. It was nice. It was it wasn't a long run, but still kind of made you move at the end of this long event, which, well, we honestly got started around 10 o'clock and it ended like around 3.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're talking 5 hours now that you basically have been on with your gear. No, I don't think anybody removed any of their gear or whatnot. Most of the time with your rifle, it was a very nice event to kind of just get that last hoorah push, utilizing both your rifle and your pistol. So it was a good event. I had no remarks with it. The the 3 targets up front with the 2 shots each, and then turning right and having the 4 targets for handgun. It was fairly simple, finish it, and then basically just walk up and down the hill back over and go get some food.
Nice.
I do remember that the guy with the scar thought that it was 3 targets, or he fired 3 times. Yeah, he put 3 shots on there just because he didn't want to take the ammo back.
No, he said he just wanted to shoot for fun.
Yeah.
So a couple guys did that.
Yeah, so a lot of the events were fairly simple, straightforward. Didn't feel like they had a lot of issues. They ran smoothly. There were quite a few people there that I remember that the owner said that they had been testing these events over months. So there were quite a few guys who I would dare say had a fairly good advantage on a lot of those events because they were the beta testers. They ran them. They gave the opinions. But you could feel it as just a normal contestant. You could feel it. You could definitely feel how a lot of those events ran fairly smoothly. There wasn't any big hang-ups. There wasn't maybe we'll do something different next time. Because I felt like the other 2 times I'd gone, there had always been at least one event where they looked at it and went, okay, we're going to change that because that didn't work, or that didn't do this, or it sounded good on paper but it wasn't executed well. Having months of preparing for this and having a multitude of people run it and the overall event made it fairly good. And this was just another one of those events.
For me, so no one ever actually shot and moved at the same time. One, that's very challenging, but it would have helped with the time if you wanted to. I said, well, let me just attempt it in the beginning. And for like a second, you'll see me in the box, start moving, flip the safety off, aim, and immediately say, oh, no, this isn't happening. Flip the safety back on and run forward. So that hindered me by a second or so. Outside of that, everything was fine. So that's all I have to say about that one. Nico?
Yep, definitely dash to the point, shoot, turn. I actually put my sling into the single point, so that way I can make it a bit faster for just the draw, and then move to the handgun. But yeah, no, wherever I stood for the rifle, I just kind of turned and stayed for the handgun. One of the other competitors actually moved himself closer to the handgun lane to get to close the distance and make the targets a little bit easier to shoot. But yeah, no, it was just a very good, time to push one,
Okay. So with that, what are some AAR comments or some improves, maybe even some sustains you want to see going into future events? Here, Utah, you first.
It's difficult for me because I don't really have like a mindset for getting that type of stuff set up.
So what are some things you would like to see?
Personally for me, I just like a lot of the kill house stuff, but I don't have anything like that out over in my state. So
that's true.
That was a lot of fun. The past 2 times when they did have an event running though, running inside of the house was just neat. I'm there to have a good time, check out if my gear's working. I'm not really focused on winning competition. I'm not focused on that. So for me, I like the events that are kind of the fun ones, which honestly all of these were. I like the multi-vehicle. I think half of the events should be roughly out of vehicle just because I think it really throws people for a loop, because how many of them get to do vehicle work?
Yeah, it's true.
I really think that does a lot of vehicle work. Having one that has the tourniquet on there, I think, is a good equalizer. A lot of people who are used to that, the 2 medics that we had on standby, who were running the event, obviously blazed through that. Other people, even dudes that have been in battalion before, were struggling with trying to get that tourniquet to twist all 3 times around for some of them.
Yeah.
So
and that's also because of the dummies. But yes.
Yeah, but it was a good equalizer. It's kind of nice to have those there. The split portion of where some stuff was dedicated rifle, some stuff was dedicated handgun. The one improvement that I think I had from the past 2 times was that they always grouped all rifle stuff was in one, all pistol stuff was in another, and then they had the rifle/pistol were at the end and was 1 or 2 of the events. This mixture of where we started off with a handgun, then an only rifle, and then combo, pistol only combo was really nice to get that mixture. You couldn't get settled into, oh, the next 3 events are all just going to be handgun only, so I only have to do that. You know, to still feel like, okay, well, I have to still be proficient in handgun and rifle during those events. It was kind of nice. Other than that, yeah, there really wasn't a lot. I showed up, I had a lot of fun, they were good, everything seemed to run smoothly. I thought that the event was honestly kind of perfect.
Yeah. For me, my only comparison is the 2023 event, so I'm going to do a lot of comparison to that. Sustains, I like the long distance shot. I really like that a lot. I would have even been down for a third rifle event that also went out to the 200, 250 yard, not necessarily the 360 each time, but something where you still have to constantly keep going out to those longer distances. I would appreciate it. So I would actually like to see more of that. I really like that about it. The vehicle use was definitely great. I think they did more vehicle use this time, which I think is good. I like to see more of that. I like the transition. So they had more steel targets to our right side that we have to transition to for a couple of drills. That was new. I thought that was cool. Some improved. So in comparison to 2023, we did a lot of cardio in 2023. Well, from the offhand shoot to the drill. We had a similar drill with the vehicle last time, but it wasn't with the vehicle. That had a lot more running. There's another one I think they did with the ladder they had running too. With my health situation I was recently recovering from, I did appreciate the less cardio. However, maybe a medium in between where you get more drills with more like medium distance cardio. I know for some people that's not great because people come in all different ages and sizes there, but I would have appreciated that. Something else was, at no point was there ever a mandatory reload outside of the Tombstone Challenge. We had a great drill in 2023 where you had to go to 3 different spots, and every time you went to it, you had to reload your rifle, and you're shooting out at pretty decent distances too. I would love to see more of that. And for us as well, we also did not mess with each other's mags. We did that in 2023 as an extra training element to it, which was fun. This time we didn't do it. Seeing more mandatory reloads I think would be cool to see for handgun and rifle. There was no Texas Star. That was the bane of our existence in 2023 with the handgun. I had a lot of magazines on me prepped for that, but it never came. And the last thing I would say is handgun, rifle. I like to see both of them together more because it forces you to kind of work with your gear and how you're going to handle that with sling management, turning the rifle, drawing your handgun. And then my last point would be, if I show up to a shooting competition, I really don't care what the round count recommendation is. I'm always there to shoot. So if you always want to do more drills with more, firing in each drill, I'm always going to be down for that. I'm always going to be interested in that. Due to the predicted lower numbers this year, they only did 7 drills instead of 10 back in 2023. I would love to see more drills. Again, that's obviously dependent on their side logistically with RSOs and time, especially if they get more and more people coming to these events, that could impact it. But I'll be there all day because if I show up to the event, I want to shoot. But overall, that might have been a little bit of bucket list, but ultimately I still had a great time. Of course, I'm going to be back next year. Okay, and Nico?
So, piggybacking off of the car, definitely. One of the training events I had earlier this year was a vehicle CQC course, in which one of the very first ones, to mimic you're working on the front of your car, your back is to the targets, your hands are like on the hood, trying to mimic that you're working on it, and then on the beep, you were to, while remaining crouching, draw your handgun and fire at the 2 targets that would be at like your kind of like 2 and 10 o'clock. Now, granted, that one is definitely a little bit more complex and could lead to a little bit more not unruly, but like for example, my first attempt at that, I didn't have my feet in a good foundation, and I was actually staggered backwards while shooting, so that wasn't safe at all. But something definitely a bit more dynamic like that would be cool. Definitely the plate rack while in the vehicle was very interesting. It was very fun, but no, so definitely something that'll be a bit more complex with the vehicle, like positioning as well. Another one that we did, it was instead of it being in the back seat, it was from the trunk, and then you had to lean to the left side or right side from the trunk as well.
Mm.
So that would be also kind of cool, and on target collets.
Yeah, so more drills working around vehicles, but not necessarily in it.
Yeah. So I mean, just making like a combination of both too, like inside the vehicle, or like outside of the vehicle. But if you're outside, then make it like more complex in a way.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate thing too. They did a really good job with the drills, but I think also with the amount of people that are going to this fairly small event, most of them are kind of familiar with how the games run. Each year you get a couple new people, but having just a little more complexity to it is always a welcome thing, as so long as you can keep up. And I think that participant base could absolutely keep up with a little more complexity. So, yep.
But no, that was just my main bit, was just, seeing how far you can go with it is all.
All right. Any concluding thoughts for any of you?
No 40-yard handgun shots this year.
No, I forgot about that.
You actually forgot. I didn't.
Yeah, it never bothered me. It never bothered me. But apparently it was a problem. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should make it 50 yards next year.
Exactly.
Get good.
Be good. Yep.
Throw a red dot on there.
Yeah. Utah?
It was a fun event. I'll be back next year.
Yep.
Bar any, natural disaster.
Yep. Helene 2.0 hits Utah.
We're all gone if that happens.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Again, if you were missing the gear and equipment we use, we did that in a separate gear talk. We also have a compilation of the event, plus this video as well, which is the actual AAR. So again, thank you guys for watching. See you guys around next time, and God bless.
Get your hand off my penis.
He likes it.
Yeah, get infected, retard.
You already did.
It's the hops number 9.
Yeah.
The hops.